Hey guys, welcome to the Magfed Ranch Paintball channel, and today I'm going to be doing a little Magfed modding. But before I get into it guys, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share, and comment. Alright guys, so the Magfed modding I'm going to be doing today is, I'm going to be installing the T15 drop-down ASA adapter from First Strike here onto our bone stock latest generation T15. Okay guys, if you guys haven't seen the review, the unboxing review I did on this marker yet guys, go check out that video. But this is the latest generation T15 with the M-LOK handguard and of course the new barrel sleeve slash handguard adapter guys that pretty much eliminates the barrel wobble. So really like that upgrade that they did to the T15. And so now we're going to be doing another upgrade on the T15, like I said, which is going to be doing this ASA drop-down adapter, okay? But before I get into installing it, guys, let me go over why you guys might want to add that adapter onto your T15, okay? The primary reason it has to do is with optics. If you're planning to run some type of red dot, like this Bushnell TRS 25 that I have here, guys, or a crossbow scope, or any other optic, like maybe even like the Supremacy scope from Karmatech, right? So any optic, what's going to end up happening is the line of sight is going to be off, because the buttstock, and I've stated this before in other videos guys, but the buttstock on our markers, because of the air tank, of course, is a little bit thicker and sits a little bit higher than your standard AR buttstock. Then, secondly, you add the distance that is going to be added by wearing some type of goggles, right? Obviously, safety first. We have to wear, paintball goggles when we play, guys. And so the cheek weld that happens, right, that occurs when you wear your goggles with the increased thickness and height of the buttstock will raise your line of sight significantly, that you won't be able to see the optic, right? You won't be able to see the red dot or the reticle in your optic, okay? And I'll kind of demonstrate that now for you guys. So you'll notice how high my head is sitting up now versus if I wasn't wearing goggles. You'll notice how it sits significantly lower because now I'm able to press my cheek against the buttstock and weld. But when we go to play, it sits up significantly higher because of the goggles. And even if you have nice goggles like this Push Unite or like a Dye i4 or i5, it's still going to sit up pretty high. And so what we normally recommend for you guys to do to be able to see that red dot still, like I can here, with my head in still an upright position instead of having to be all the way kinked over, we recommend that you guys run some type of riser like I have here with the FSR adjustable riser, okay? But the problem with that, as much as we love the FSR adjustable riser, and I personally think, guys, it's kind of a must-have mod, but there are some cons. Like I said, as much as I love this riser, the two significant cons of it is that it's actually quite heavy, because it's literally a very bulky, chunky piece of metal, and then of course it can be unsightly, right? Obviously beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's quite a chunky, and some would say kind of grotesque piece. And the other thing as well too is aesthetically, it makes the optic sit quite high on your marker, as you can see here on our bone stock T15, right? So it just makes the optic sit quite a bit higher than what you're used to in your standard AR. Okay, guys? And so one of the solutions that obviously First Strike came up with was to come up with this drop-down adapter, okay? And so what that's going to do is it's going to drop the tank mounting location from its standard location, as you see here, to about a 3/4 inch drop. So that way the tank is going to come out right around here now, right? Instead of higher, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna pull the camera in a little bit closer so I can show you guys how to install this thing. And then of course I'll go over a couple other prerequisites as well, okay? All right, guys, so before you guys begin to install your ASA adapter, I always like to obviously get a good clean workspace, and then of course have all your tools ready. You're gonna need some type of punch tool, or like I like to use just a little small flathead screwdriver that will be used to push the pins and separate the upper and lower receivers of the T15. We have a 3/32 Allen key here. We also have an 1/8 Allen key / kind of T handle here, guys, because you're going to need that to install and remove the T15's ASA, just the factory ASA adapter here, and of course install the new drop-down adapter. I also have a couple other Allen keys here, guys, a 2.5 millimeter and a 3 millimeter. I'm going to show you guys why we're going to need these later, because the ASA adapter alone won't be good enough to give us the correct line of sight, okay, guys? But I'll get that in a little bit once I complete the install, okay? So first step first, guys, we're going to want to make sure that the air tank isn't filled. It's going to be easier to obviously remove this stuff and remove the tank if it isn't charged, because when the air tank is charged, it's a lot harder to turn. So what we're going to do by starting out is just removing the air tank with the buttstock. Now I will say this is kind of one of the pros of having just this floating style buttstock setup, is that you don't have to worry about the guide rod and the stock ring, guys. But guys, go check out that video where I show you guys how to install those two pieces if you want to go to the old school look, okay? The second thing, after we remove the buttstock and air tank, guys, the next thing we want to do is going to be separating the upper and lower half of the receiver. This is kind of where obviously our little flathead screwdriver or some type of punch is going to come into play. Typically when I push on the push pins, I like to press down on the upper receiver, and that's to squeeze the upper and the lower receivers together, so that way the push pins slide out easier. Okay, and then of course tackle this front one as well. Okay, guys, and usually the front one's a lot easier than the back one. Okay, but once that is done, guys, you can literally separate the upper and lower halves of the receiver just like a real AR, which is kind of cool. Okay, we'll set that off to the side. Now, what you're going to need to remove next is going to be these two Allen bolts, Allen head bolts right here, guys. And that's what's going to obviously hold the ASA adapter on the stock T15. But before we do that, we're going to have to use our 3/32 Allen key and remove this little metal cover plate on the back of the T15. This is kind of like, literally, I think it's just like a reinforcement plate for the T15, so that way it gives it a little bit more structure and rigidity, guys. This plate is also the plate that you would replace when you install the rear sling adapter mount, guys. Go check out that video where I show you guys how to install that piece, but this plate would get replaced by that sling mount adapter, okay? Real quick about that sling mount adapter, because the ASA drop down adapter from First Strike, the new piece, is going to drop this piece down here, we no longer can use a rear sling mount adapter from First Strike, okay, guys? But don't worry, it has a different solution to install a sling. Okay. So next step after that, guys, we're gonna take our 1/8 Allen key and we're gonna unloosen these 2 bolts. Now, there is some thread locker or some type of thread paste on these bolts, guys. So when you do go to reinstall it, make sure you use a little bit of thread paste. I like to use either thread paste or just some weaker thread locker. I don't suggest using the red stuff, just in case you want to remove it again in the future. So like the blue or the purple thread locker would be ideal. Okay, so now since those 2 bolts are loosened and removed, you can remove this ASA adapter, the factory one, from the back of the T15. Okay, guys? Like so. So set these bolts aside because we're going to use them later to install the drop-down adapter. And then, of course, be mindful, you'll notice that there's an O-ring here on the back of the factory ASA adapter. And that's obviously for it to seal the compressed air. Okay, guys, so don't lose that O-ring. So let's see what is included in the First Strike drop-down adapter package. Okay, guys, I like the First Strike packaging. You know, at least they have their logo and everything. It looks legit, looks good. I don't know if some of you guys think that's important or not. I personally think that's a good, you know, just good touch on any product. Now, you'll notice that, like I was telling you, the ASA drop-down adapter is going to relocate the factory adapter to a lower position, like such, okay? But you'll notice now that, like I was telling you guys earlier, they have a provision for a sling mount, and you'll notice that they have a quick disconnect bung here. So that way you can install any quick disconnect little sling, you know, ring mount. Okay. So although we can't use the sling mount adapter, the metal plate style, they give you a new provision for some type of quick disconnect. Okay, guys. So just be aware of that. So you still can attach a sling using this setup. Okay. The other thing they give us, of course, guys, too, is a new O-ring. But like I said, it's not for the factory piece. It's going to be for the new piece. As you can see here, it goes in the center as here. So that way it seals the air from the T15 receiver to the drop-down adapter. We need to install the ASA adapter, the factory one, to the drop-down adapter first. Okay? Now, make sure that you have it orientated correctly, and to know that there's this dimple cutout that would have been used for the stock ring and guide rod setup. So that's gonna face down, guys. Okay, so this is how the position will be on the T15. So this dimple, like I was telling you guys, is gonna face down. And the hardware that comes with the drop-down adapter is going to be used to install the 2 pieces together. Okay, guys? And once again, that is the 1/8 Allen key. Like I said, if I was installing this permanently, guys, and not just to show you as a demonstration, I would Loctite these bolts or thread paste them. But since I don't plan to keep this a permanent addition to the new T15, I'm just going to show you guys how to install it. Okay, but once you guys get it started, then you guys can tighten it down all the way. Obviously, with it thread pasted or thread locked, it's not going to come back out. Make sure that that O-ring is in place, and then now we can go and install the drop-down assembly to the T15 receiver using the original bolts. Okay, guys, from the original ASA adapter. And once again, use thread lock or thread paste if you guys are going to be permanently installing it. I usually like to get these bolts hand started too, guys, so that way you don't cross thread the bolts. And then once you have it started, then you can get the rest of it going. Okay. All right, so once you have it all the way down and tightened, guys, as such, right, you can see how it went from its original position up here. Now it's dropped down about 3/4 of an inch is what First Strike is saying that it drops it down. We can go and tighten the bolts completely. Okay, and then now we can go and reassemble the upper and lower receivers. Of course, make sure all the O-rings are in place. The pins are all the way out completely. Now we can, easiest way typically is just to attach the front part pin of the T15 receiver. Okay. And then the back one just slides into place. And like I said, I typically like to squeeze the upper receiver and lower receivers together, and then that allows it, the pin, to go in smooth. Okay, guys, so now that we have the upper and lower receiver together, you guys can see already that the drop down, the drop is significantly compared to the factory. We can install our air tank. Like I always tell you guys, make sure you lube it with a little bit of lubrication so that way it doesn't damage the O-ring and the threads. But since I'm not pressurizing this tank, it's just for demonstration, I won't do that here. Now, of course, this is when you guys are gonna go, of course, fill up your air tank as well to check to make sure that there's no leaks, okay, guys? So, yeah, so make sure you guys do that and make sure that there's no leaks in the system. Okay, so now, like I said, this is just one of the things you're gonna need to do to be able to use an optic with your T15. The reason for that, guys, is like I was telling you guys, the FSR adjustable riser has an approximate rise over the receiver of about 2.5 inches. So ideally, you want at least a minimum of 2 inches over the receiver, but ideally 2.5 inches, okay? So since this is only a 3/4 inch drop down, if we were going to install our optic just straight onto the receiver, as such here for you guys, okay, so like I was saying, if you guys went to just go install the red dot here without any type of riser, or let's say it even had just a little bit of a slight rise, it won't be high enough to compensate for that whole buttstock goggles issue. Okay, so I'm gonna pull the camera back out and I'll demonstrate that for you guys right now, okay? Okay guys, so like I was saying, if we just use just the drop down adapter as the solution to, you know, see if the red dot will line up or any optic will line up, even if we had, let's say, like some type of scope mount or little O-ring, scope rings, it still wouldn't be high enough, okay? Okay, I have to literally kink my head down way too far before I would be able to see it, okay guys? And even if this thing was, let's say, a 1/2 inch up, I would still have to kink my neck over significantly to be able to see it. Compared to with the FSR adjustable riser, I can literally just keep my head upright, okay? And the goggles, you know, not totally pushed into my face, okay? So the solution that we need, unfortunately, is a 2-part solution. We'll need the drop-down adapter like we see here, and then we're also gonna need some type of riser mount. But the riser mount has to be significant enough so that way when you add the two distances together, it's gonna be that minimum 2 inches that we're looking for, unfortunately, guys, okay? 2 inches, unfortunately, is significant in this particular case. And so the mount that I'm going to be installing to work with the ASA drop-down adapter is going to be this Foku Hunter adjustable riser. Okay, guys. And the reason for that is because this thing adjusts from 1 inch all the way to 1.8 inches. Okay, guys, so I'll show you guys its adjustability here in a second. I'm going to remove the red dot so that way I can install the riser. Now, I was telling you guys earlier about why I need these other Allen keys is because these other Allen keys will loosen the adjustment screws on the riser, okay guys? And so, as you guys can see here, the riser has 3 set screws on this one side and another set screw on the other side. So the 2 bottom set screws are of course just for the Picatinny rail mount, so that way you can attach it to the upper receiver. The top 2 set screws is how you're going to adjust the height of the riser, okay guys? And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to loosen it. And so when you see that, once I loosen it, the whole riser piece slides out. Okay guys? You'll see that it has like grooves and teeth that the bottom half and the upper half joins together with. Okay? And so by positioning the highest teeth setting, we're able to obviously adjust the height of the riser to the highest point possible. Okay guys? And so it's in 0.3 inch increments. But once I have it set at its highest setting, I'm going to hold the 2 pieces in place. And then I'm going to tighten the 2 side set screws so that way the mount is secure and that it's not going to come loose. Once again guys too, if this was a permanent mounting, I would thread paste it or use a light thread lock so that way it wouldn't come loose. It's a good idea to do that with all your hardware on your marker, right? Okay, so you'll notice how significantly higher that is now with it at its highest adjustment compared to what it was out of the package. And now we're going to install it to our marker. And then of course our red dot. Okay, to the riser after that. And typically on the red dots, guys, a lot of people ask, where should I position my optic on my marker or even on a real AR? You want to attach it as forward as possible on the actual receiver. So that way it's obviously on a solid piece and that it's farthest away, so that way, you get the best, I guess, just kind of like eye relief and just being able to catch the red dot. Now, if this was like a magnification type of scope or optic, like an ACOG, you would need to mount it so that way wherever your head and eye position is, it will be at the correct distance of the optic. But on a red dot, you typically want to mount it as far forward as possible on the receiver. And that's what I have here. Alright guys, so now with the correct height over bore, I can go and install the red dot. Okay guys, so there you have it. You can see how much higher it's above the receiver versus just running, on only a standard 1/2 inch riser. Or unfortunately, a lot of the risers out there, guys, that you guys will commonly run into is the highest height is only 1 inch. I'm sorry. So, like I said, you need a minimum of 2 inches total, okay? So the 3/4 inch drop that you get with the ASA drop down adapter, plus the 1.8, 1.5 to 1.8 inch rise that you get with this adjustable riser, will give you that 2 to 2.5 inch clearance that you're going to need to make sure that your eyes line up properly with the optic. And I'll demonstrate that for you guys here with my goggles. So now, right, with the goggles and everything, yep, so right now with the goggles and everything, I can literally just keep my eyes up, right, bam. I see the red dot, no problem. My head's not having to kink over all the way over. I can keep a upright head position for the most part. Now, like I was telling you guys, because this distance is only close to 2 inches, it's still not the ideal height. The 2.5 inches that the FSR adjustable riser is still the more ideal height. But like I said, if you don't like the ugliness, the weight, just overall the clunkiness and the look of running an FSR adjustable riser, this is a good alternative. Okay, guys? And just a real quick note too, it's kind of funny, but you'll notice that our current military and specifically our special forces are moving kind of to more of this higher above height mounting solution. So for example, I believe it's the GBRS group, ran and owned by former DEVRU SEAL Team 6 guys. They have their Hydra mount, and their Hydra mount mounts the optic, I believe, 2.91 inches above the receiver. And so like I said, guys, this isn't just with our paintball markers where, obviously we have to come up with a solution for the goggles and of course to be able to make sure we see our optics correctly, but also just, neck position, body position, better alignment, so that way we're not, stressed out. Your body's more natural, your body's just more relaxed. So giving you guys those options in terms of either running the FSR adjustable riser or running an ASA drop down with an adjustable riser here, that can be a solution for you guys out there, okay? But hey guys, if you guys like that video, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button. Check you guys next time. Peace.